The sky above Helion Prime was a soft silver blue, clear enough to see the shape of distant frigates drifting like seeds across calm air. The Galactic Council's plaza shone in daylight. White stone steps rose like a wave toward a ring of crystal towers. Light moved across the glass like living water. Delegates in neat robes crossed the square in quiet lines. The city felt clean, open, and sure of itself, as if certainty were a kind of weather. Ray Anwar stepped from the human shuttle and looked up at the towers. He wore a simple gray suit with a tiny flag pin. No armor, no cape. He carried only a flat case and the expression of a teacher trying to reach a restless room. His pulse ran faster than he liked, but his stride stayed even. He had practiced that. Breathe in 4 steps. Breathe out 4 steps. Look at the sky. Remember the sun over Karachi, bright on warm rooftops. Remember home. A young aide from the council met him at the base of the steps. Her skin had a pale opal sheen, and her eyes held the calm of a person sure that history normally favors the comfortable. "Envoy Anwar," she said, "your address is scheduled at 10th bell. You will have 3 minutes." 3 minutes, Ray repeated, gentle. "I'll make them count." She smiled the way a person smiles at a polite tourist and gestured him forward. "I hope so." Inside, the council chamber opened wide like a daylight stadium. Polished white tiers rose in a circle. The roof was clear crystal, and the sun drew soft gold lines on the floor. Holographic banners floated over each delegation. Some banners were quiet blues and greens. Some glowed with careful pride. In the first ring, the ash-gray banner of the Threxans drifted with a star symbol. In the second ring, the Jala's pale yellow cloud swirled in constant slow motion. The human banner, only a simple earth with a white rim, hung in the balcony where Ray would speak. Buzzing voices faded to a low hum when he entered. The chair, a thin figure of silver-white hair and steady eyes, nodded from the dais. "Envoy Anwar," the chair said into the room. "We welcome you. There is a motion on the table about sanctioning Earth for non-compliance with fleet registries and technology disclosures. You requested to speak before a vote." Ray set the flat case on the stand and opened it. Inside lay a thin plate the size of a tablet with a pale glow like sky on water. He touched one corner. A soft projection rose. A map of Sol, not dramatic, simply precise. Planetary orbits traced in fine white threads. Sun bright as a small coin. "Madam Chair." "Honored delegates," Ray said. His voice was calm. He let the room settle around it. "I came to ask for restraint. I came to warn you. Not as a threat. As a friend who does not want fear to push anyone into a mistake they cannot take back." A few delegates leaned forward, interested by the word warn. A few smiled, small and amused. Human drama, perhaps. They thought they had seen this movie before. "You believe Earth is hiding weapons," Ray continued. "You think we are gathering strength in silence. I will not argue about the old misunderstandings. I will not call anyone unfair. I will only say this. We do not want to fight. We do not want to embarrass anyone. We're new here and we know it." His hand swept across the map. New icons appeared. Ocean farms, orbital factories, transport lanes. The ring of small stations like beads around the planet. All efficient, all bright in the daylight projection. "Our strength is not secret cannons," he said. "It is focus. It is memory. When Earth is challenged, we do not sleep. We do not split into 1,000 petty rooms. We make plans the way a builder lays stones, one after the other, straight and honest. We do not stop until the roof holds." At the Threxan bench, General Corva, angular, armor polished like pearl, clicked her tongue plate, a soft metallic sound. She lifted a hand. "Builder words," she said, "pretty. But this council works by law, not poetry. Earth has refused registry inspections 3 times. Ray nodded. "We offered an alternative. Shared results instead of open doors. You called it evasive. Perhaps it is careful. The last time we opened our doors, factories in Lagos were copied component for component on Ramus 9. The patents dispute is still in your courts." Murmurs rolled around the circle. The chair tapped a small chime. The sound was clear and bright like a glass note in a quiet kitchen. 2 minutes remain," the chair said. Ray breathed once and looked up through the crystal roof. A flock of small maintenance drones crossed the sky. The light flashed on them like tiny fish in a shallow sea. He thought of his daughter's drawing on the fridge at home. A sun with too many rays. A house with a crooked window. the word Dad in bright orange. The image steadied him. He touched the plate again. The map zoomed to Earth, blue, white, green, daylit. Above it, a ring of small defense platforms appeared as faint dots. Not a wall, not a threat, just a clear sign that someone had locked their doors at night. "Here is my warning," Ray said. The room grew a little quieter. Even the banners seemed to drift slower. "If you move sanctions into force with patrols, inspections by force, seizures, blockades, if you step into Seoul with a heavy hand, then events will be stronger than intentions. You will meet plans you cannot predict. People at home on every side will make choices neither of us can control. There is a kind of gravity in pride. Once you fall into it, it is hard to climb back to reason." He let the words rest. He did not raise his voice. He did not show anger. He looked like a father asking neighbors not to test where the fence stands by night. The Threxan general folded her arms. The Yala delegates' cloud pulsed a doubtful yellow. "What choices?" Someone asked from high on the fourth tier. Ray gave a small smile, not smug, not coy, just human. "The sort we make very quickly and carry for a very long time." The chair's eyes narrowed with interest. "Do you claim Earth has an unknown strategic capability?" "I claim Earth has a habit," Ray said. "When told what we are not allowed to be, we become it. When pressed, we do not break. We organize, we solve. We remember the face of everyone we love. And we work until the problem is different than it was. I am here to stop the problem before it changes shape." The final minute chime sounded. A beat of light ran around the edge of the dais. The sun through the roof seemed brighter for a heartbeat, like the world inhaling. "Envoy Anwar," the chair said, "your time ends. Do you offer any verification that sanctions would be unwise beyond cultural self-description?" Ray closed the plate. The projection faded to a soft reflection of the room. He lifted the flat case and held it in both hands, as if it were a gift he wished he did not have to give. "I offer a demonstration," he said quietly, "not as a spectacle. As a sentence in a language we both understand." He looked to the glass roof again, as if waiting for the right second on a watch only he could see. Sunlight touched the rim of the chamber. The bright line moved, slow and certain. Ray's left hand tapped once on the case, 3 soft beats. Somewhere above the city, very high and well outside the council's no-fly rings, a human survey craft listened for that pattern. Before anyone could object, the sky answered. Through the crystal, a pale white thread appeared at the edge of Helion's atmosphere. It was not a weapon strike. It was not loud. It looked like a sunrise drawn thin. The line touched a point to the north, an empty practice field, registered and cleared for tests by the city weeks ago, filed, stamped, and paid for with polite detail. The air there rippled. Grass bent in a slow circle like a giant hand smoothing a blanket. A structure grew out of the light, a slim arch of unknown matter, whiter than the towers, casting no shadow. It stood quietly, as if it had always been part of the morning. Delegates stood. Some reached for wristcoms. The Threxan general half rose, stopped, and looked to the chair. Ray did not move. He watched the arch with everyone else. His face was calm, but his knuckles were pale around the handle of the case. "This is not an attack," he said. "It is a door we learned to make far from home. It will stay for 1 hour. In that time, whatever small vessel you choose may pass through it and appear in a field on Earth, under a bright noon sky, greeted by people with open hands and careful eyes. You may speak, you may test, you may see for yourselves what you call secrecy. Then the door closes." He looked back at the circle of faces. "Sanctions before understanding will break trust that takes generations to build. Please don't do that. Don't challenge Earth because you are afraid of a rumor. Walk through first, then decide." Silence held the room like glass. The chair stood very slowly. Sunlight drew a line across her silver hair. "Envoy Anwar," she said, voice soft but steady. "If this is a trick, it isn't," Ray said. The chair glanced at her counselors. The arch hummed. A sound like a gentle chord played far away. A bright carrier craft slid from a nearby tower bay and hovered, waiting for orders. "Very well," the chair said at last. "We will send a team." From the Threxan bench, General Corva raised her hand. "With respect, Madam Chair, my forces should accompany—" A thin alarm light flashed near the ceiling just once. Everyone looked up. Through the crystal roof beyond the calm arch, a shadow passed across the sun. Not dark, not violent, simply vast. Something else had arrived early. Ray felt the hair on his arms rise. The timing wasn't his, and the door began to open wider. The arch shimmered over Helion Prime's white fields, humming like a quiet promise. To the Council, it was a doorway no one had asked for. To humanity, it was proof, not of threat but of understanding. A transport vessel, silver-bodied, marked with the blue seal of the Galactic Council, drifted toward the glowing structure. Its engines whispered against the air, keeping a cautious distance. Inside, Captain Leora of the Threxan fleet tightened her gloves. Across from her sat Ray Anwar, calm, watching the bright portal through the view glass. Leora's eyes, pale and sharp as glass, narrowed. "Your people built this without Council oversight," she said. "Without approval. Without known materials," Ray smiled softly. "Sometimes permission follows proof." The portal widened as the ship approached. From the surface, the citizens of Helion watched, silent, thousands of species under the same bright sky, waiting to see what Earth had hidden. "Crossing threshold in 3 seconds," said the pilot. The air around the vessel folded, light bending like silk in water. Then, without noise or flash, the ship vanished into white. When the glare cleared, they were no longer above Helion Prime. They were home. Earth, the planet unfolded below them in daylight. Vast oceans gleamed like glass. Continental edges shimmered with green and gold. From this height, cities looked like tiny constellations. No smoke, no scars. Only motion and balance, like the world had learned to breathe again. Leora leaned toward the viewport. "This can't be right," Ray nodded. "It's live. No simulation. Welcome to Earth." The Council vessel descended through clouds. The air was warm and full of color. Sunlight spilling on rivers, valleys blooming with new forests, wind turbines turning in calm rhythm beside ancient ruins preserved like art. The ship hovered above a field of white domes near a coastline that curved like a painted line. A voice crackled through the comms. "This is Earth Traffic Command, Bay 12. We have visual. Welcome, Council guests. Please remain steady for escort." 2 small drones rose to guide them, their movements smooth, precise, and silent. Leora exhaled slowly. "You turned your planet into a sanctuary." Ray's voice carried quiet pride. "Into a home. We had enough wars, enough lessons. We learned peace wasn't softness, and it was engineering. It took us centuries to design calm." As they landed, a soft hum passed through the ground, solar grids sinking to their presence. The hatch opened to a golden field lined with transparent walkways. Men, women, and children watched from a distance, not afraid but curious. They waved, sunlight on their faces. The alien officers stepped out, blinking in the brightness. One of them, a thin Jala scientist, spoke softly. "It's warmer than any world I've known." A human approached. She wore a white uniform with a small Earth emblem, her steps light but confident. "Welcome to Earth," she said. "I'm Dr. Mara Holt. I'll guide your tour." Leora glanced at Ray. "You planned this," he smiled. "We hoped for it." The tour began with silence and awe. They walked through open structures made of living glass, buildings that shifted color with the sun, powered by nothing but light and wind. Children played in gardens woven between the pathways, their laughter echoing off white stone. A mechanical bird flew overhead, then landed near a tree, folding into a small box for a child to catch. Leora watched everything like a soldier trapped in a dream. "You don't hide weapons here?" Mara stopped beside a tranquil lake, where ripples reflected clouds. "We don't hide anything. Every tool we make has 2 purposes, creation or protection. We prefer the first." The Jala scientist turned her glowing tendrils toward the water. "Yet you built that portal. That is no simple protection." Ray's tone softened. "It's communication. The arch was meant to be a bridge, not a wall. We wanted you to see what Earth has become, not what we were." Leora's jaw tightened. "And if we had chosen war instead of dialogue?" Ray looked at the horizon, where distant towers caught sunlight like blades of gold. "Then you'd be standing here anyway. We'd still invite you to look before deciding." A faint breeze stirred the grass. Somewhere far off, an ancient bell rang, not metal, but resonance from sound towers that marked the passing of hours. The Jala scientist whispered, "You changed your world's frequency. Mara smiled faintly. Yes, the Earth itself hums differently now. As they continued, the group reached a platform where massive pillars rose toward the sun. In the center stood a single monument, not of stone, but light. It shifted with the angle of view, forming faces, moments, histories. It showed humans building shelters, mending oceans, teaching machines to plant trees. At the base, carved in dozens of alien scripts, was a simple phrase, "Remember who you were. Be better next time." Leora stopped before it. Her voice, normally hard as steel, trembled. You built this after your wars?" "Yes," Ray said. "It's our oldest promise to ourselves." Silence fell. Even the alien guards lowered their weapons slightly. The wind carried children's laughter across the field. And somewhere, a song began, a human melody that had survived centuries of change. Leora turned to Ray. "You speak of peace as if it were strength." "It is," Ray said. "Because it costs more to build than to destroy." He looked at her, not as an opponent, but as someone he wanted to understand. "Your council fears what it doesn't control. But control isn't safety. Cooperation is." Hours later, as the delegation prepared to return through the arch, Leora stood alone at the platform edge, watching the sunlight fade over the ocean. She had fought in 20 campaigns, seen cities burn on 6 worlds. Yet this quiet planet that chose to heal instead of conquer, unsettled her more than any war. Ray approached quietly. "Beautiful, isn't it?" She didn't look at him. "You built paradise, and yet you warn us not to challenge you. Why?" "Because peace," Ray said, "is the hardest thing to protect." He glanced toward the glowing arch in the distance, its light flickering as the hour drew to a close. "And because if someone tries to break it, we'll do what humans always do. Rebuild stronger." Leora's eyes softened. For a heartbeat, the soldier and the envoy shared the same silence, the kind that only those who have seen loss understand. Then the arch pulsed, signaling their return. The delegation walked toward it, the light wrapping around them like morning mist. Back on Helion Prime, as the council chamber filled with murmurs and arguments, Ray's voice carried through the confusion. "You've seen what we are," he said simply. "Not a threat. A warning that humanity has learned what not to be." But far above the chamber, unnoticed, small distortions shimmered in the sky, echoes of portals opening in secret. Someone else had been watching the demonstration, and they had already stepped through. The day after the delegation returned, the Galactic Council's halls no longer felt bright. The same white stone that had shimmered like calm water now seemed cold, almost watchful. Whispers followed every corridor. News feeds replayed the moment the human portal appeared and disappeared across 1,000 worlds. Some called it a miracle, others called it a threat. Ray Anwar sat alone in the visitor's chamber, looking out through the clear window at the wide Helion skyline. The city still moved in its perfect rhythm, ships landing, banners fluttering, sunlight falling soft across glass towers. Yet something had changed. The silence between sounds felt heavier. The door opened. Captain Leora stepped in, no guards, no armor, just her sharp eyes and a tablet in her hand. "Envoy," she said quietly, "you should see this." She placed the tablet on the table. A live feed flickered on. It showed a dark spot forming above one of Helion's moons, a faint ripple like disturbed water in space. Ray frowned. "That isn't one of ours." "It isn't one of anyone's," Leora said. "We checked the registry. The energy reading matches your Earth portal, but it's unstable, unanchored." Ray stood slowly, his face calm but his hands tightening behind his back. Then someone learned from what they saw. Leora looked at him. "You said only Earth could create that technology." "We could," Ray said softly, "but someone must have copied enough during the demonstration to try. They're forcing a gate open without understanding what it touches." The image on the tablet trembled. A flash of white rippled across the feed, then static. The moon's surface vanished behind blinding light for a second, and when the signal returned, there was a perfect circular crater where nothing had been moments before. Leora exhaled, her voice low. "Half the moon's relay stations are gone." Ray turned from the screen. "Now you understand why I warned you." An emergency session of the council was called within the hour. Every species sent its highest delegate. The chamber filled with sound. Metallic voices, glowing forms, the hum of translators. The chair struck the chime 3 times before silence settled. "We face a crisis," she said. "An artificial portal, unauthorized and unstable, has appeared and collapsed near our primary satellite. Preliminary scans confirm it used human origin field equations." Dozens of eyes turned toward Ray. He stepped forward slowly, his voice steady. "The equations are human, yes, but the error in their structure, that isn't ours. Whoever used them tried to copy what they didn't understand." The Threxan general slammed her fist against the desk. "And who else would even have access?" Ray met her gaze calmly. "Anyone with a recording drone. You all sent them to Earth." The Jala delegate's voice rippled through its glowing form. "You accuse the Council?" "I don't accuse anyone," Ray said. "But I know what happens when curiosity mixes with pride. You wanted to know our limits. Now someone tried to find them." The chamber erupted in murmurs again. The chair raised her hand. "Enough! Envoy Anwar, if you believe this technology has been misused, can it be contained?" Ray hesitated, then answered honestly, "Not easily. Once someone understands the principle, they can try again. But every failed attempt risks tearing space in unpredictable ways." A hush fell. Leora stood. "Then we need your help to prevent the next attempt." Ray nodded slowly. "You'll have it. But understand this. Earth never built the portals as weapons. They were keys for communication, not doors for invasion. If they fall into the wrong hands, even we may not be able to close them all." Later that night, as the Council debated protocols and defense plans, Ray stepped onto one of Helion's outer balconies. The city spread below, all bright and clean under a white-blue sky. For a moment he wished he could believe it was still safe. Leora joined him again, silent at first. The wind carried faint music from the plaza. A band of alien youths practicing human melodies learned from old transmissions. The sound was strange but beautiful, familiar yet new. "Your people," Leora said after a while. "They've done what no one else has. They made peace into strength. But peace is fragile. Do you really believe you can hold it if the galaxy turns against you?" Ray looked at the horizon, where the sun dipped low. "I don't believe. I prepare. That's how humans survive." He paused, his eyes thoughtful. "Before I left Earth, our scientists warned me of strange readings near the solar edge. Something moving, reflecting our signals back at us. We thought it was static, but maybe it wasn't." Leora frowned. "Are you saying the unstable portal wasn't from the Council?" "I'm saying," Ray said slowly, "someone or something might be building their own version, and they started long before today." The captain stepped closer. "Then who?" He turned to her, face lit by the pale city glow. "There are civilizations beyond even your maps. Some of them vanished thousands of years ago. Maybe one of them left the technology behind. Maybe they're watching to see who misuses it first." Leora's voice dropped. "And what happens if they don't like what they see?" Ray gave a faint smile, the kind that hid fear behind calm. "Then Earth's warning won't be just for the Council." The next morning, the city woke to alarms. Not loud, but constant. A low hum that vibrated through every street. Ray was already in the Council Tower when the first report came through. A scout fleet near the outer ring had detected multiple faint signals, identical to the portal energy signature, moving toward Helion space from the void. The chair's voice echoed through the command chamber. "Unidentified objects? How many?" The operator's voice trembled. 14. Matching the portal harmonics." Leora looked at Ray. "Visitors?" He shook his head. "No, tests. Whoever started this is looking for something, or someone." The chair turned sharply. "Envoy Anwar, is Earth behind this?" Ray's reply was quiet but firm. "No, but whoever is coming knows your attention is fixed on us. That's the perfect distraction." The council members exchanged uneasy looks. Ray stepped forward, his tone measured but urgent. "We can't fight what we don't understand. We need to coordinate. Human data, council resources, every sensor you have. I can open a communication line to Earth's deep-net observatories. They'll detect the pattern faster than anyone." The chair hesitated. "You're asking for full data access?" "Yes," Ray said. "Because if we don't act now, by the time you decide, they'll already be here." Outside, the Helion sky still looked calm. White towers, slow ships, daylight pouring over the city. But if one looked closer, small distortions shimmered like mirages high above the atmosphere. New portals, thin, pale, almost invisible, were forming in the sunlight. The same sunlight that had once made Helion Prime beautiful. And this time, the light did not feel warm. Helion Prime was no longer calm. The city that once shimmered like a pearl beneath sunlight now pulsed with tension. Security drones circled the skies in tight orbits, scanning the clouds for distortions. The sound of air traffic had changed, faster, sharper. Fear moved quietly, but it was everywhere. In the council chamber, the delegates argued, not with shouts but with cold precision. Words like containment, retaliation, sanction filled the air like static. The glowing banners above each seat flickered, their colors muted. The trust that had made the council a symbol of unity was cracking, thin lines forming under pressure. Ray Anwar stood near the central dais, hands folded, listening as one faction accused Earth of deception, while another demanded cooperation. His face was calm, but his thoughts raced. Every hour, new readings came in, faint portal echoes, matching the frequency of the unstable one near the moon. Someone out there was experimenting, and now the whole galaxy was about to pay the price. The chair's voice finally cut through the noise. Enough, her tone carried the sharp edge of command. We must decide. Either Earth shares full access to its portal technology, or the Council will act independently. Ray looked up slowly. You mean you'll take it? The chair did not flinch. If your people truly mean peace, then transparency is not surrender. It's cooperation. Ray stepped forward. His voice stayed even, but his words carried the weight of generations. Cooperation doesn't start with threats. You saw what happened to your moon. You saw the damage caused by imitation. If we open everything, untested hands will tear holes across the stars. That's not unity. That's chaos. A low murmur ran through the chamber. Leora, standing among the military advisors, clenched her fists. She knew Ray was right, but she also knew the Council was drifting toward something irreversible. The Threxan general rose, armor gleaming under the white light. Then Earth leaves us no choice. We will secure the technology ourselves. Ray turned to her, calm but sharp. You'll start a war over a door you can't even control. It won't be a war if you cooperate, the general said. Just a precaution. Precaution, Ray repeated softly. That's what they called the first invasion of Mars, too. The air thickened. Even the holographic banners seemed to dim. Later, outside the chamber, Leora found Ray alone in one of the quiet corridors. Sunlight spilled through the crystal walls, but even the light seemed tired. They've already voted, she said quietly. You lost. The Council authorized a covert retrieval operation, a team to seize Earth's primary portal core. They'll move tonight. Ray didn't react at first. Then he smiled faintly, not out of humor but sadness. So this is how peace ends. Not with bombs, but signatures. You have to leave, Leora said quickly. Once they find out you know, you'll be detained. Ray shook his head. If I leave, it proves their fear. If I stay, maybe they'll still listen. You're too idealistic. Maybe, he said softly. But I've seen what happens when people stop being idealistic. The universe becomes cold again. Leora looked at him, at the man who had brought light to her rigid military world, and felt something she hadn't felt in years. Guilt. Ray, I wasn't supposed to tell you. He met her eyes, calm and kind. You just did the right thing. That's what makes you human. She blinked hard. I'm not human. He smiled gently. You act like one. For a long moment, neither spoke. Outside, the sky began to flicker again, thin, silvery lines forming high above the atmosphere. That night, Helion's lower airspace filled with silent movement. A fleet of unmarked ships slipped from the shadow of the orbital docks, sleek, invisible to public sensors. Their mission was simple. Enter Sul, locate the source of the human portal technology and retrieve it. The Council called it containment. The crews called it insurance. Ray watched their departure from his quarters, standing before a tall window that framed the distant stars. He didn't try to stop them. Words wouldn't work anymore. Instead, he activated his private comm link. DeepNet Command, this is Anwar. The Council is moving. Begin Phase 2, a pause. Then a voice replied, calm, efficient, unmistakably human. Acknowledged. Archway protocols engaged. Defensive barriers only. No hostilities, Ray sighed. Let's hope it stays that way. Hours later, the Helian fleet emerged near the edge of the solar system, where the light of the sun was faint but steady. The planet Earth hung small and perfect in the distance, a bright blue dot surrounded by invisible strength. The lead ship's captain, a Threxan officer named Corva, initiated scan mode. No resistance detected. Proceeding with descent. But as their ships crossed into the orbital zone, the sensors began to flicker. The empty space ahead rippled. Dozens of small points of light appeared, each forming a thin white circle, identical to the arch on Helion. Corva's eyes widened. They're everywhere. From the largest portal, a transmission appeared. Ray Anwar's voice, calm, carried across all channels. General Corva, stand down. Earth does not wish for conflict. But if you proceed, you'll trigger a containment sequence that will lock your fleet in orbit for years. Please, turn back, Corva scowled. You think you can trap the Council's ships? No, Ray said softly. We think you shouldn't need to. Before she could reply, the portals activated. Beams of pale light linked together, forming a web around the fleet. The ships froze mid-flight, engines alive but unmoving, time itself distorted around them. In the command ship, Corva shouted, "Shut it down! Reverse thrust!" Her officers worked frantically, but every system replied the same. Access denied, external override detected. One of her lieutenants looked up, trembling. They're not attacking us, General, they're holding us in place. Corva's glare softened. For the first time, she understood what Ray had meant. Back on Helion, alarms blared across the Council towers. The chair demanded answers, but communications were collapsing. The portal network surrounding the fleet wasn't hostile. It was protective. Still, panic spread. Leora burst into the chamber. "Stop the recall order," she shouted. "They'll destabilize the portals if they try to force re-entry." The chair looked at her in disbelief. "You're defending the humans?" "I'm defending survival," Leora snapped. "If those portals collapse, they'll tear space open between worlds. No one wins that." For a long moment, the chair said nothing. Then, slowly, she gave the order to stand down. Ray returned to the chamber at dawn. The sunlight was pale and forgiving. "Your ships are safe," he said quietly. "But the line between us isn't." The chair's voice was weary. "You've divided the Council, envoy. Half see you as a savior, half as a liar." Ray nodded. "That's still better than all seeing me as an enemy." He looked out the crystal wall. The sun broke fully over the horizon, lighting the city in soft gold. But someone out there is still watching. The ones who built the first portals. They'll see what we did tonight, and they'll judge whether we're ready for what comes next. Leora stepped beside him. "You think they'll come?" He didn't answer right away. Then softly, "I think they already have." Far above, where the clouds thinned into sky, a new shape glided across the light, silent, white, and not made by human or Council hands. The divide wasn't just between Earth and the galaxy anymore. It was between what they knew and what was about to arrive. Helion Prime had never seen chaos before. Now it lived in it. The morning sky, once clear and soft as water, burned with light. Dozens of white arcs shimmered above the city, each one pulsing like a heartbeat. They were not Earth's portals. These were older, smoother, perfect, and they hummed with a sound that made the air itself vibrate, deep and low, like thunder trapped beneath the ground. The Council's defenses came alive. Ships lifted from docking rings, drones swarmed into the upper atmosphere, and planetary shields shimmered into place. Yet nothing fired. There was nothing to fire at, only the glow of portals expanding, silent and steady, as if they didn't care whether they were welcome or not. In the Council chamber, fear had no language. Delegates spoke over each other, their voices sharp and desperate. "Unknown entities. This is invasion. Shut them down." Ray Anwar stood near the center, his calm presence cutting through the panic. Leora stood beside him, her armor half-worn, helmet under one arm. The chair's voice trembled but remained clear. "Envoy Anwar, are these your doing?" Ray's answer was simple. "No, but they were built by the same minds who taught us how." Then you know how to stop them. He shook his head slowly. They were never meant to be stopped. They're meant to decide, the chair frowned. Decide what? Whether we deserve the technology we've been playing with, Ray said softly. They're not invading. They're judging. Outside, the first of the unknown vessels emerged. They weren't made of metal. They looked alive. Smooth, organic shapes like wings carved from light itself. They hovered in perfect silence, reflecting the sun as if woven from mirrors and mist. There were no weapons visible, no engines, no markings. Yet every sensor screamed at their presence. Hellion's defense fleet launched interceptors. The ships climbed through clouds like silver arrows. But before they could reach the newcomers, their systems shut down mid-flight. Engines froze. Control vanished. The alien ships didn't attack. They simply disconnected everything that tried to strike them. Across the city, citizens stared up at the sky in silence. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy's mightiest world felt powerless. Leora gritted her teeth. They can paralyze fleets in seconds. What do they want? Ray watched the glowing ships hover in perfect formation. They want to see how we react when power isn't on our side. Hours passed like slow minutes. Council worlds across the galaxy sent distress calls. Portals were appearing everywhere. Some above oceans, some in deep space, some over human colonies. No harm yet, only presence, watching, waiting. The Council fractured instantly. Some species demanded total retaliation. Others begged for negotiation. A few turned on Earth entirely, blaming humans for awakening ancient gods. When the first riots broke out in the Helion Undercity, Ray and Leora descended there themselves. The people were frightened, aliens. Humans, hybrids, all shouting the same thing. They brought this. A group of soldiers blocked Ray's path. One, a young officer with trembling hands, aimed his weapon. If humanity caused this, then why should we listen to you? Ray stepped forward, his voice calm. Because fear doesn't save anyone. It only builds graves. The soldier's hand shook harder. They said the portals can erase worlds. Is that true? Yes, Ray said simply. If we fail to act like a civilization, his words cut through the air like light through fog. The soldier lowered his weapon. Slowly, others around him did the same. Ray raised his hand toward the sky, where one of the great white arcs hovered like a sun. They're testing us. Not our guns. Our unity, Leora looked at him. And if we fail the test? Then humanity falls with the Council, Ray said. Unless we show them something different. By nightfall, Earth's voice echoed across the stars. From orbit, every human relay station broadcast a single message on all frequencies. Calm, clear, unmistakably human. To the unknown architects watching, humanity speaks. We built your bridges not to conquer but to connect. You may have found us flawed, but we will not hide. If this is judgment, then see us for who we are. We make mistakes, we fall, but we rise together. The message spread faster than any weapon ever could. It carried through portals, through ships, through cities, reaching every world touched by the strange light. In Helion's Council Plaza, thousands gathered to listen. The human envoy's words echoed from the towers, and for the first time in weeks, people stopped shouting. They looked up, not with fear, but with something older. Hope, Leora turned to Ray. They're hearing it. Even the ones who hate you. He smiled faintly. Good. Hate can't survive when people start listening. Then the alien ships moved. From each portal, one descended. Not to attack, but to land. Their light dimmed until they stood like silent statues over the council square. The largest one opened, unfolding like a blooming flower. Inside was not a creature, but a sphere. Pure white, suspended in air, humming softly. Every translator failed. No one could understand the signal it emitted. No one except Ray. He stepped forward slowly. It's speaking in math. Patterns older than language. The sphere glowed brighter, and then a beam of light extended from it, touching the ground, then spreading like roots of light through the plaza. Where it moved, holographic images appeared. The past, the wars, the portals, the mistakes. Humanity's rise. The Council's arrogance. The fractures between them. It showed everything. Then the light shifted again, showing something new. A future divided. Helion burning. Earth isolated. Countless stars falling dark. Leora stepped forward. They're warning us. Ray nodded slowly. They're giving us a choice. Suddenly, alarms screamed from the outer defense grids. Council forces, led by rogue admirals, had launched without permission. They believed the alien ships were a prelude to invasion. "Fire protocols initiated," shouted an officer. "No!" the chair cried, but it was too late. Hundreds of missiles streaked upward toward the hovering alien vessels. The first explosions lit the sky, and then everything stopped. The missiles froze mid-air, suspended in glowing light. The alien ships shimmered. In the silence that followed, the weapons dissolved into dust. And then, for the first time, the alien sphere spoke. Not in words, but through every mind in the city. "You were given creation. You chose destruction." The voice was calm, sad, infinite. Ray's knees almost buckled. The weight of it pressed into his thoughts. "They're not going to destroy us," he whispered. "They're going to leave us behind." The sphere dimmed. The ships began to pull back toward the portals. One by one, the arcs of light started to close. Leora's voice broke through the silence. "Ray, we can't let this end here. We have to show them humanity isn't the same as the Council." Ray turned to her, eyes fierce for the first time. "Then help me broadcast. Not from Helion. From every planet that still believes in us. Humans, Threxans, Jala, anyone willing to stand together. We'll show them unity, not fear." Leora nodded. "That's an uprising worth fighting for." Within hours, messages lit up the stars. From Earth, from colonies, from alien worlds. Billions spoke, sang, wept, prayed. It wasn't a command. It was a chorus. And for a moment, the portals paused. The ancient ships hovered, silent, watching. Then, one by one, they began to glow brighter again. But this time, the light was warm. Not judgment. Recognition. Across the galaxy, people stepped into the sunlight and looked up together. Humanity had done the impossible. Not by fighting, but by standing united when the universe expected them to fall apart. The uprising had begun, not of weapons, but of spirit. The galaxy held its breath. For the first time in living memory, every world, human, alien, and forgotten, shared the same silence. No warships moved. No council decrees passed. Only the light of the ancient ships remained, suspended in every sky, glowing like second suns. On Helion Prime, the plaza where panic once ruled was now full of people standing shoulder to shoulder. Soldiers without weapons, scientists, civilians, children. All gazing upward at the massive sphere hovering above the city. It pulsed softly, in rhythm with the heartbeats of those below. Ray Anwar stood at the center, his face pale in the white light. Leora stood beside him, armor forgotten, her helmet lying at her feet. "Is this it?" she whispered. Ray didn't answer. The air itself felt alive, vibrating faintly, like sound before thunder. "It's their response," he said at last. "They've listened." The sphere brightened, filling the sky with pure light. For a heartbeat no one could see. Then, in the brightness, shapes formed. Faint, elegant silhouettes of beings made of motion and geometry, like living constellations. They weren't solid. They were patterns, shifting and flowing, too beautiful and precise to belong to flesh. A voice entered every mind, calm, layered, ancient. "You have awakened what slept between stars. You have opened what was sealed." The sound wasn't a threat. It was more like a memory being spoken aloud. Ray took a breath and stepped forward. "We only wanted to understand, to connect, not to harm." The light shifted, showing scenes from the past. Humans raising the first arch, the council arguing, the wars before peace. You repeated the patterns of those before you. Conflict, fear, control, yet. The images changed again. Humanity rebuilding. Children playing under restored skies, alien and human hands working side by side. You also learned what they could not. The light dimmed slightly, and the beings' shapes grew clearer. They looked down upon the council world, their tone filled with quiet gravity. "You call yourselves advanced, yet still tremble at what you do not understand." The portals were never meant to make empires. They were bridges between those who had forgotten they were family. The chair, standing among the delegates, lifted her chin. "If we have failed, then teach us to do better." The light pulsed again. "We cannot teach what must be lived." A pause. Then the voice deepened. "The bridges will remain, but they will belong to those who choose creation over fear. Humanity stands. The war that never happened became the event that changed everything. Decades passed since the reckoning. The galaxy, once fractured and full of suspicion, had grown quiet. Worlds that had barely known each other now shared trade, art, and stories. The bridges, those glowing veins of light humanity had rebuilt, now pulsed gently across the void, alive and stable. No one feared them anymore. They were part of the stars now. Earth had become the heart of the new alliance. Not a ruler, not a conqueror, but a bridge keeper. The Council itself no longer met on Helion Prime. It met in orbit above Earth, within a structure built from white stone and clear glass, a mix of every world's design, but shining brightest with the blue of home. Ray Anwar never sought to lead, yet history had quietly written his name into the foundation of the new age. Now older, hair streaked with silver, he preferred the quiet corners of the observatory, the same man who once walked into the council chamber with only a briefcase and a warning. He stood by the glass again, watching Earth below, green and whole, oceans bright like liquid sky. Behind him, soft footsteps echoed. Leora entered, no longer a soldier. Her armor had been replaced with the plain robes of a teacher. She carried a thin data pad and the calm of someone who'd finally found peace. "Still watching the stars?" she asked with a gentle smile. "Old habits," Ray said. "They remind me how small we are." She walked up beside him, setting the pad on the railing. "The new generation doesn't feel small anymore. They think the galaxy's theirs to build," Ray chuckled. "Good. Maybe they'll build it better than we did." They watched in silence as a small ship passed through one of the bridges, a young explorer vessel bearing flags from 10 different worlds. The bridge rippled softly as it went through, the light following the ship like a blessing. Leora glanced at him. "Do you ever wonder what happened to them? The builders." She nodded. "They vanished after the reckoning. No contact, no signs." Ray looked back at the stars. Maybe that's the point. Maybe they were never meant to stay. They gave us tools, then stepped back, the way parents do when their children finally learn to walk. He paused. "Though sometimes, I think they left something behind." Leora raised an eyebrow. "Like what?" Ray didn't answer. He reached into his coat and took out a small crystal, faintly glowing white, humming softly. It pulsed once in rhythm with the bridges outside. Leora's eyes widened. "Where did you get that?" "Found it in the archives," Ray said quietly. "No one remembers putting it there. It's not human, not council-made, but it's responding." "To what?" He looked up, his expression thoughtful. "To us, to what we've become." The crystal's light grew stronger, and faint patterns appeared inside, not symbols but echoes like ripples across water. Leora leaned closer. For a heartbeat, she swore she saw movement within. Faint silhouettes of the builders, shifting and dissolving, as if waiting for something. Then the crystal flickered and went dark. Ray smiled faintly. "Maybe that's their way of saying goodbye." "Or hello," Leora said softly. Outside, across the void, something stirred. At the farthest edge of known space beyond the reach of any bridge, a single point of light appeared, tiny, distant, but steady. A new portal, soft white and pulsing slow, like a heartbeat waiting to be answered. DeepNet observatories detected it within hours. Reports flooded the council channels. Unregistered signal detected. Stable. No known source. In the observatory, the alert chimed softly. Ray and Leora turned toward the display. She whispered, "Another builder?" Ray shook his head. "No, look at the coordinates." She did. Her breath caught. The portal wasn't forming out there, it was forming inward, near Earth's orbit, from humanity's side. A human experiment automated decades ago had accidentally replicated the original pattern. Except this time, the portal didn't open outward to the stars. It turned inward, showing an image no telescope could capture. A swirl of light shaped like an eye, watching from beyond comprehension. The same voice that had once echoed through. The minds of billions whispered again, faint but clear like a memory returning from a dream. Creation is an echo. You have learned to build bridges, Now, learn to listen through them. Then the light vanished, leaving the monitors blank. The council scrambled to analyze the data, to debate what it meant, but Ray didn't join them. He stayed by the glass, looking at the stars with a calm no one else understood. Leora stood beside him again, silent for a long time. Then quietly, "What do you think it means?" Ray smiled softly. "It means they're not finished with us yet." He looked back down at Earth, at the glowing bridges, the living worlds, the millions of lives connected by what once caused fear. "Every warning," he said, voice almost a whisper, "is also a beginning." The light of the stars shimmered across his face, soft, infinite, and familiar. Somewhere beyond, a ripple of white light spread like a heartbeat through space, repeating the same rhythm from long ago. The echo of humanity's warning had become something greater, not a threat, not a plea, but a promise carried into forever. Do not challenge Earth, the galaxy once feared. Now it meant something new. Do not underestimate what humanity can become. And for the first time since the Builders vanished, the universe listened.